Think you know the whole story? Turns out you were probably taught the half-truth. Welcome to Half-Truths. Imagine for a moment that you are standing on a windswept ridge in the dead of winter. The sun has dipped below the horizon, and the temperature is plummeting. The wind cuts right through your layers, settling deep into your bones. You are shivering. Your fingers are numb. You are miserable. Then your friend reaches into their coat pocket and pulls out a silver flask. They unscrew the cap and hand it to you. You take a swig. It is whiskey or maybe brandy. It burns on the way down, a fiery ribbon of heat that seems to light a furnace in your belly. Suddenly, your cheeks flush. That biting cold on your face softens. The shivering subsides just a little. You feel a wave of comfort radiate from your chest out to your fingertips. You turn to your friend and say, "Thank goodness for that liquid coat. It is the oldest trick in the book. It is the nightcap on a snowy Christmas Eve. It is the shot of vodka before facing the Russian winter. It is the universal cure for the shivers." But here is the thing about that feeling. It is a lie, a dangerous biological lie. Welcome to Half-Truths. I am your host, and today we are walking out into the cold to confront a myth that has likely killed more stranded travelers than avalanches. We are going to talk about the belief that alcohol warms you up. You know the story. We all know the story. It is woven into the fabric of our literature, our movies, and our collective folk wisdom. If you are freezing, you drink. It is practically medicinal. But what if I told you that the sensation of warmth you get from that drink is actually the feeling of your body losing the battle against the cold? What if that flush in your cheeks is really your internal heating system throwing open the windows and letting all the heat out? What if the very thing you think is saving you is actually speeding up the freezing process? Today, we are going to trace this myth from the snowy peaks of the Swiss Alps and the neck of a very famous dog, all the way down to the microscopic valves in your blood vessels. We are going to find out why your body lies to you, and why that Saint Bernard with the barrel around its neck is actually offering you a poison chalice. Let's start with the image that cements this myth in our minds. Even if you have never owned a dog, even if you have never been to Switzerland, you know the image. A massive, fluffy Saint Bernard dog, bounding through the deep snow of a high mountain pass. And there, strapped around its thick, furry neck, is a small wooden keg. We know what is in that keg. It is brandy. Or maybe rum. It is a restorative spirit meant to revive the weary traveler found buried in a drift. This is the ultimate symbol of altruism and rescue. It is a cartoon trope we grew up with. It is in Looney Tunes. It is in sketch comedy. It is on the logo of actual brandy bottles. The logic is sound, or at least it seems to be. The traveler is frozen stiff. The alcohol wakes them up, warms their blood, and gives them the strength to make it to the monastery. This belief isn't just about dogs, though. It is about the beer jacket. It is the reason football fans can stand shirtless in freezing stadiums after a few hours of tailgating. It is the reason we associate mulled wine with surviving the holidays. We rely on alcohol as a distinct, tangible heat source. And the most convincing part of this myth, it works. Or rather, it feels like it works. You cannot argue with the sensation. You take a drink and you stop feeling cold. If it feels warm, it must be warm, right? Our senses are our window to reality. If my skin feels hot, surely I am heating up. This is the story we have been told for centuries. Alcohol is a fire water. It stokes the embers of a dying metabolism. It is a survival tool. Now, let's pull the thread. Let's start with those dogs. The Great St. Bernard Pass is a treacherous route in the Alps connecting Switzerland and Italy. For centuries, monks have maintained a hospice there to aid travelers. And yes, since the late 1600s, they have bred large mountain dogs to help clear paths and locate people buried in the snow. The most famous of these dogs was named Barry. Barry lived in the early 1800s and is credited with saving over 40 lives. Barry is a legend. His body is actually preserved in a museum in Bern. But if you go to the monks at the Great St. Bernard Hospice today and ask to see the kegs, they will look at you with a mix of amusement and annoyance, because the monks never used brandy kegs, not once. They will tell you that giving alcohol to a hypothermic person is a terrible idea, and they have known that for a very long time. So, where did the keg come from? If the monks didn't put it there, who did? It wasn't a historian, it wasn't a veterinarian, and it certainly wasn't a survival expert. It was a teenager, a painter named Edwin Landseer. In 1820, Landseer was a young artistic prodigy in England. He was 18 years old when he painted a work titled Alpine Mastiffs Reanimating a Distressed Traveler. It is a dramatic, moody scene. Two massive dogs stand over a fallen man in the snow. One dog is barking to alert the monks. The other is nudging the traveler. And there, painted in exquisite detail around the dog's neck, is a small wooden barrel. Landseer made it up. He thought it added a nice narrative touch. It explained how the dog could offer immediate aid before the humans arrived. It was an artistic flourish, a bit of visual storytelling to add interest to the composition. But the painting was a hit. It captured the Victorian imagination. It combined the nobility of nature, the bravery of dogs, and the romantic danger of the Alps. Suddenly, the barrel became canon. It didn't matter that the monks kept saying, "We don't do that." The public had decided that St. Bernards carry brandy. It became a self-perpetuating meme 200 years before the internet. So, the mascot of this myth is a fabrication. But what about the feeling? Landseer might have invented the barrel, but he didn't invent the sensation of warmth that comes from a stiff drink. That part is real, and that is where the danger lies. To understand why this is a half-truth and not just a lie, we have to look at the mechanics of your own plumbing. Your body is an incredibly sophisticated thermal machine. Your survival depends on keeping your core temperature, your heart, your lungs, your brain, at roughly 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit. Your body will sacrifice almost anything to protect that core temperature. When you step outside into the freezing cold, your body initiates a defense protocol. It is called vasoconstriction. Essentially, the blood vessels in your extremities, your hands, your feet, your nose, and even your skin clamp down. They tighten up. This is a brilliant evolutionary strategy. Your body is effectively saying, "Sorry fingers, sorry toes, you are not essential right now." We need to keep the warm blood in the center of the torso to keep the heart beating and the brain functioning. By reducing blood flow to the skin, your body turns your outer layers into insulation. It minimizes the amount of heat escaping into the cold air. This is why your fingers turn white and feel numb. It is why your skin feels cold to the touch. It is unpleasant, but it keeps you alive. It is your body battening down the hatches to ride out the storm. Now, enter alcohol. Alcohol is a vasodilator. That is the scientific term. In plain English, it means alcohol relaxes the muscle walls of your blood vessels. It tells them to open up wide. So, you are standing on that snowy ridge. Your body is working hard, clamping down those vessels, hoarding heat in your core. You take a swig of whiskey. The alcohol hits your bloodstream. Suddenly, those clamped vessels in your skin and extremities are forced to relax. They dilate. Warm blood from your core rushes out to the surface of your skin. It floods the capillaries in your cheeks, your hands, and your feet. This is the aha moment for the sensation. The nerves in your skin detect that sudden rush of hot blood. They send a signal to your brain saying, "Hey, we are warm. This feels great." The pain of the cold vanishes. You flush pink. You feel cozy. But think about what has actually happened. You have just taken the warm blood from your vital organs and sent it to the surface of your body, right next to the freezing air. You have bypassed your body's natural insulation. It is exactly like opening all the windows in your house in the middle of January because you feel a draft. Sure, the air right next to the window might feel warmer for a second because the heat from the furnace is rushing out, but you are rapidly draining the heat from the entire house. The sensation of warmth is the feeling of heat leaving your body. You are not warming up. You are venting your battery life into the atmosphere. This is why the myth is so persistent. It relies on a confusion between skin temperature and core temperature. We judge how cold we are by how our skin feels, but in a survival situation, skin temperature is irrelevant. Core temperature is everything. When you drink in the cold, your core temperature drops faster than it would if you were sober. Much faster. But because your skin feels warm, you don't realize it is happening. You don't feel the warning signs. You don't shiver as much because shivering is triggered by the drop in skin temperature, which you have just artificially raised. So, you feel warm, you stop shivering, and you relax. And all the while, your internal organs are slowly cooling down to a point of no return. This isn't just a matter of comfort. This is a matter of life and death. In medical terms, this helps explain why alcohol is a contributing factor in a huge percentage of hypothermia deaths. It is not just that drunk people make bad decisions, though that is certainly true. It is that drunk people are physiologically incapable of defending their own body heat. Let's look at the history of this in practice. During the Napoleonic Wars or the Great Polar Expeditions, there were constant debates about the rum ration. Experienced survivalists often noted a paradox. They saw that men who drank to ward off the cold often fared the worst. There is a gruesome phenomenon in late-stage hypothermia known as paradoxical undressing. It is one of the most haunting things rescue workers encounter. They find victims frozen to death in the snow, but the victims have stripped off their clothes. Why? Because as the body's control mechanisms fail completely in the final stages of freezing, the muscles contracting the blood vessels become exhausted and give up. They snap open. One last surge of hot blood rushes from the core to the skin. The victim, who is moments from death, is suddenly overcome with a sensation of intense, burning heat. They feel like they are on fire, so they strip off their coat, their boots, their shirt, and then they lose consciousness. Alcohol mimics a mild version of this mechanism. It induces that rush of warmth. It tricks the brain into thinking the danger has passed. The liquid sweater is actually a heat vampire. But we have to ask, if this is biologically so clear-cut, why did doctors prescribe it for so long? Because they did. For a long time, brandy was the go-to treatment for shock and cold. It comes down to what they could observe. Before we had modern thermometers and a deep understanding of thermodynamics, medicine was largely based on observation of symptoms. If a patient was pale and shivering, they looked like they were dying. If you gave them brandy, they turned pink and stopped shivering. To a Victorian doctor, that looked like a cure. The patient looks alive again. They have color in their cheeks. They mistook the symptom of heat loss, the flushed skin, for the return of vitality. They were greasing the slide into hypothermia and calling it a rescue. This brings us to the modern context. We still do this. Maybe not with brandy barrels on dogs, but with our own behaviors. We drink at the ski lodge. We drink at the cold football game. We rely on the beer jacket to walk home without a coat. And usually it is fine. If you are close to a warm building, if you are wealthed, if you are not in a critical survival situation, that drop in core temperature is manageable. Your body can reheat itself once you get inside. The danger is when the safety net is gone. The tragic irony is that alcohol actually suppresses the shivering reflex. Shivering is your body's way of generating heat through muscle activity. It is unpleasant, but it is effective. Alcohol acts as a depressant on the central nervous system. It tells the hypothalamus, the part of your brain that acts as the thermostat, to chill out, literally. So not only are you losing heat faster through your skin, you are generating less heat internally. You are burning the candle at both ends. Let's go back to that image of the Saint Bernard. It is a beautiful image. It speaks to our desire for comfort, for rescue, for a warm friend in a cold world. And the dogs themselves are heroes. The monks at the St. Bernard Hospice really did save thousands of lives. They did it with milk and food and body heat, and by physically guiding people out of the storm. But the barrel is a symbol of how easily we can be seduced by a good story. We want the solution to the cold to be a delicious, warming drink. We want the vice to be a virtue. We cling to the half-truth because the full truth is uncomfortable. The full truth is that the only way to stay warm is to keep the heat you have. It means layers. It means covering your head. It means shivering until your teeth chatter. It means keeping your blood in your core where it belongs, even if that means your fingers hurt. The warmth of the whiskey is a phantom. It is the heat of your own life force escaping into the winter air. It creates a feeling of safety exactly when you are most vulnerable. So, the journey from the myth to the reality is a journey from sensation to science. The myth says, I feel warm, therefore I am warm. The reality says, you feel warm because you are losing the very heat that keeps you alive. This matters because it is a perfect example of how our intuition can betray us. We are hardwired to trust our senses. If something hurts, we avoid it. If something feels good, we seek it out. But in the extreme environments of our planet, our intuition is not enough. Biology doesn't care about how you feel. It cares about thermodynamics. It teaches us that sometimes the things that feel like relief are actually the things that doom us. It teaches us to look past the romantic paintings and the old wives' tales to understand the machinery underneath. So, the next time you find yourself shivering at a bus stop, or camping in the fall, or just feeling a chill in the air, and someone offers you a drink to warm you up, go ahead and take it if you want the buzz. Enjoy the flavor. Toast to the St. Bernard, but do not fool yourself into thinking it is a coat. Recognize that flush for what it is, your body's insulation failing, a biological trick that feels like a warm hug but acts like an open window. Because when the temperature drops and the wind howls, the only thing that drink is actually warming is the air around you. Now you know the real story. What other half-truths are still out there? If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave a comment, and join us next time. Until then, stay curious.